Hello everyone and welcome to the Bonus Points podcast. I'm Joe Garrett, joined by Ollie Guy. Hello Ollie.
Hello, somber.
Oh, sorry.
It's a somber
Welcome,
episode,
everyone,
scary.
to the Bonus Points podcast.
There you go.
I got a weird feeling about this episode. Anyway, welcome to the podcast where, as we mentioned, we are talking about Silent Hill 2 Remake. Yep. So let's go straight in to kind of talk about what this remake is.
Yep, so I'll tell you what I'll do is I will start with the Wikipedia entry. But before we get to that, just content warning. Pretty much everything is covered in this game, like all the awful things you can think of. So if for any reason, you might be particularly sensitive to pretty much anything, maybe skip this one. If you've got sensitive disposition, maybe skip this one. Because it's heavy. It's heavy.
If you're watching the video one, I won't show probably the worst stuff, but even in terms of themes and the story, it's a pretty wide valley for kind of sensitive
it's heavy
topics. Yeah, so if you're not in the mood for that right now, or this doesn't sound like your kind of thing, we did Plucky Squire a few weeks ago. Maybe give that one a listen.
Go back to that one.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Anyway, with that, let's go into the Wikipedia entry. So Silent Hill 2 is a 2024 survival horror game developed by Bloober Team and published by Konami Digital Entertainment. It is a remake of the 2001 video game Silent Hill 2, originally developed by Team Silent, a group within Konami Computer Entertainment Tokyo. Like the original game, it follows James Sunderland, a widower who returns to the eponymous town of Silent Hill upon receiving a letter from his deceased wife Mary, who claims to be waiting there for him. Masahiro Ito and Akira Yamaoka, who serve as creature designer and composer for the original game respectively, took an active part in this development. So there we go.
Okay, let's start off as we usually do when we're covering a franchise. I guess we'll give ourselves a bit of background for what, if any, Silent Hill games we've played before. So do you want to go first?
So I played and finished Silent Hill Homecoming when that came out. So that was in 2010. 2011 maybe. It's a long time ago now. That was 13 years ago, which is crazy. And
there hasn't been many since then, to be
fair. There's only been one, I think, which is Silent Hill Downpour, which I've never played or even seen. And there was also Silent Hill Shattered Memories, which was a remake of the original game. And I think I finished it, but that was on the Wii. So this was a long time ago.
So it was a remake of the original, but essentially one generation later in terms of hardware.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, so I don't have much memory of it. I saw the film, I think.
Yeah,
don't remember much of that either. But pretty much going in to Silent Hill 2 as fresh as you can get.
I remember watching the film, and this will mean nothing to anyone else, but if you're watching the video, you can look at Ollie's face. But I watched the film with James Moore, who had it on DVD, and brought it to my house, and I watched it with my whole family and James Moore. Man. And my parents loved it.
Doesn't it end with a big fight?
Yeah,
like a Marvel style big fight where
it's in front of a church or something.
Yeah,
up some steps.
Yeah,
I have vague memories of it, but I really associate it with a school friend of ours who no one watching this will know who that is. But yeah, for me, Silent Hill, I played Silent Hill 3 back on the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
Don't know if I finished it.
Yeah.
But I definitely I played it. I remember it pretty well, and so I remember several locations from it, so I at least put some time into it. And then I played some Silent Hill 4. I don't know if I played it with you or if I played a demo.
I had 4, but obviously back then we were 13.
Yeah.
I don't really remember it. I remember being scared of it, but I don't really remember much else.
I feel like we together played some of it, but I couldn't remember if it was the demo or not. But I really just remember, it might sound silly, but being in the room. And I remember there's a hole appears and you kind of crawl through it or something.
That's right, in the bathroom, yeah.
And I think there was a phone you could put.
Well, the scary thing about Silent Hill 4 was that the front door was chained up of your apartment, but it was chained up from the inside. So it was whatever chained it up is still in there. That was the hook.
Yeah.
That's what I remember from that game. Yeah. And the main character had a funny name, but I don't remember what it was. It was an unusual Western name. It was it might have been Walter or something. And I remember at the time being
yeah.
Okay. No offense to any Walters out there, but I was that's a strange name.
So it's essentially we're both pretty light. I mean, the obvious game missing from our past is neither of us had played the original Silent Hill 2. So this video isn't going to be comparing Silent Hill 2 to the remake. We don't have any nostalgia for Silent Hill 2. And there's kind of pros and benefits to that. But I guess the perspective we're coming from is we spent 2 weeks playing this horror game in 2024.
Yep.
Like, did we have an enjoyable time? What did we think of it?
Enjoyable.
Yeah, that was a weird choice of word. Right. Why don't you kind of set out, like, literally from the start of the game, how does it start out and what are you doing in this game?
Well, it starts with our leading man, James Sunderland, washing his face in the bathroom.
Yeah, and I actually, just from how famous Silent Hill 2 is, I recognised that opening. I'd obviously seen that reference before.
And he's basically got a letter from his wife, who's been dead for 3 years, saying, I'm in our special place in Silent Hill. You should come and find me. And James is like, I mean, he's a skeptic. He's like, I don't think this is real, but there's a chance that it might be. So I'm going to go and basically go to Silent Hill and see if I can find her. But I mean, the game, from the get-go, obviously it looks amazing. It's brand new. Look like really incredible performances. Really looks really great. The capture's amazing. But it's quite standard horror game fare. It's an over-the-shoulder scary is what I've been started calling them. Like, you know, you got that tight camera angle. You aim down, you aim over your shoulder. You shoot enemies. You solve puzzles. You run around town.
Yeah, you think of any of the more recent Resident Evils, Alan Wake 2, is another one. They all have, in terms of controls, kind of blended into each other a little bit.
You got the dodge, you got the shoot, you got the melee.
Yeah, but it all, I think it's less actiony than Alan Wake 2, but it feels maybe a little bit more solid. Like I think the controls are just quite good, just very simple. Like if you press right trigger, you attack with whatever melee weapon you have, but if you aim and then press right trigger, you shoot.
Yeah,
like that is all pretty intuitive and it's very streamlined. Like I thought this was going to be a game mostly with melee weapons, and I assumed I was going to be picking up sticks that would break or have like different ones, but really the first half of the game you have a plank of wood with nails in, second half of the game you have a pipe, and that's basically it.
Yeah, despite how many enemies there are, it's not really about combat.
Yeah.
Not enemy variety. There are a lot of enemies, a lot of the same enemies, but it's not really about fighting.
There's not much strategy.
No.
Because it's, as you say, there's only a small handful of enemies, and each enemy has probably 3 attacks and quite big tails, so they're often quite easy to dodge. And so I very quickly got into a rhythm of, okay, it's one of these. I'm just going to melee anyway because I know they're so predictable I don't need to shoot. And then it's like, oh, there's a nurse. They're a bit tankier. I might just use a shotgun to get rid of them, or 3 bullets to the head. Like you very quickly learn how to deal with each one. And obviously there's some scenarios where they'll combine them or have more than one, but it's a pretty straightforward affair in terms of combat.
Yeah, the last thing I will say on the combat, because it is literally that straightforward. When there is a few of them, it does get more difficult. Like when there's like 3 enemies, it's like, okay, I need to back up and get him through a choke point.
Yeah, James isn't like very mobile. Like he's kind of shuffling around and sort of stiffly turning around, which, you know, is intentional, I think, to kind of make, you know, he's not meant to be Solid Snake. He's like man. Like he's like a normal everyday person, so he isn't, you know you got to dodge, but you're not dodge rolling or doing jumping kicks or anything. You are kind of stumbling around and taking them out. I mean, you're doing better than I would in this scenario. I don't want to do him dirty.
Yeah, fair enough. I'd say that the star of this game is the environment and the story and all of the small stories that take place throughout the game that are sometimes they're kind of interlinked, sometimes they're just not, but it's like, you know, every time you approach someone or something or an area, it's like, this will have a little bit of story attached to it. And kind of the unraveling of that, as well as the unraveling of your environment, is kind of the star here of this game. Because the environment is, like, kind of unbelievable, I would say, from a visual standpoint. So the game's big trick that it does is, like, you tend to run through an area, so say, like, a hospital, and then you'll run through the Otherworld version, which I'm only calling it that because that's what my trophy on my PlayStation called it, the Otherworld version.
That's the technical name, I believe.
Yeah. So then it becomes like a more and more degraded version every time you pass through it. And like, this is effective if it's like slowly degrading, but it's also really effective if it does it quickly. So it's like on all fronts, environments and visuals are like really, really unbelievable. Really just, I mean, you wouldn't think that they would be that good, but it's like, enough that the combat only having 3 enemies is like, that's okay because the environments are that good.
And it's the interesting thing where it's visually really impressive, but it's quite mundane environments.
Mhm.
It's kind of like this small American town, and the places you go to are generally, at least in the real world, not exotic. As you say, it's like a hospital, like a prison, like a pretty rundown apartment block.
Yeah.
And so it's quite interesting seeing those sorts of locations rendered in this way. And that's not to say that there isn't any style to it. You know, like it's kind of impressive how they make these quite normal looking environments creepy, and there is something subtly off about them, maybe a little bit claustrophobic. A lot of that's done with the lighting, and then of course famously the fog when you're in the town. There's a lot of times where for whatever reason you just have very limited visibility, and I think that does make the game look better. Like there's just when you have impressive lighting, you just see like one torch, like you can kind of hide a lot of like maybe technical limitations in darkness, but it creates a lot of atmosphere as well.
Yeah, the characters too. That's the other thing that really adds to atmosphere. Everyone has this kind of off-kilter thing about them that, like, I couldn't put my finger on it, but something about everyone and the way they speak to each other is always a bit like there's something else going on that maybe the characters in the game are aware of, but you're not aware of. The way they're speaking to each other and the way that people react to things, not the way that you're expecting them to. So, like, your leading man, James, like, he's not like a sweetheart. He's not like Ichiban. But, like, he tries to do well by the people around him that are still alive. But they tend to react in, like, a bit of a, like, standoffish way. That are like, don't come near me. Or, you know, they swing a knife at him. Or this guy, Eddie, that you meet, like, he's a bit crazy. And he, like, pulls a gun on James. He's like, oh, it's just a joke. But the way these people act, it constantly keeps you on edge.
Yeah, I think they know mostly why they're in Silent Hill.
Yeah.
And I think James doesn't, at least at the beginning of the game. And so I think they just don't believe that. Like, I think they're people that, for whatever reason, have been treated harshly.
Yep.
Whether justifiably or not, depending on kind of what you take away from it. And so when James shows up and he's like, hey, are you okay? Like, let me take that knife away from you. If we stick together, I can help you. I think they're like, no, I don't believe you. Like, people don't treat me in this way. Like, and you're in this town as well. Why are you here? Like, they kind of don't want anything to do with him. And so he kind of slightly tries to play the hero to help them, but he doesn't push it. So he's kind of like, okay, all right, good luck then. I'll go off, try and find my wife. Yeah,
so the town is like the overall feeling. So, like, actually, let me just start this by saying I have not, like, looked anything up. I didn't want to do that. So I just went for it. The town is, like, basically punishing people who are there who have somewhat wronged someone. Well, actually, not somewhat. Have extremely wronged someone are being punished by this location. But maybe people who haven't done anything live there and it seems to be fine for them. That's what my general Silent Hill understanding is, because there is a character in this game, Laura, a little girl, and she's like running around and you're like, oh, you're going to get hurt. You haven't got a scratch on you. She's like, why would I?
Yeah.
But to you and to other characters, the town is like haunted. It's full of monsters. It's crazy. I think in the original, I haven't played the original, but I have heard that the first enemy that you kill in the original game, if you go back, because it's right on the outskirts of Silent Hill, there's like police tape. And they're like, what the hell is this? This is a person. Like, you've killed someone. Whereas, like, I don't know if that's in this version, but there's something going on with, like, some sort of punishment. I don't know. But that's for me, that is the through line of this game, was like, what's going on.
That was my takeaway as well. I also didn't look anything up about, like, the story either. And it's pretty, you don't get that until relatively near the end where it starts. I mean, there's clues that they kind of drop, and at least the characters that you meet, you kind of suddenly realize, like, there's something off about them a little bit earlier.
Are we going to have to draw a line about spoilers there, or what? What are we going to do? Because the game's brand new. You should, if this sounds good to you, you should go and play it.
Yeah, I think...
But it's too hard to talk about without spoiling it, isn't it?
I think because so much of what I think's interesting about this game is the story.
Yeah.
I think it's hard for us to say, and then we're going to speak about the story for 10 minutes at the end. So
yeah. All right, let's just do as much as we can quickly now, and then we'll have to start just spoiling it.
Yeah, this story has been out there since 2001.
Yeah, so. But I wasn't spoiled. Were you spoiled?
No.
Yeah. So it was, got to experience it raw, I guess, which is cool. The other thing of this game it's very different to Resident Evil, like completely different end of the scale. Like Resident Evil is like camp horror, zombies, or how scary that. Whereas this game, I didn't find it particularly scary. It was more like it's just horrible.
I wouldn't say it was scary, but like I guess stressful is the word I would use. I think the audio goes a long way there. I think before I died, so I died twice. I can't particularly remember. I think one of them was a boss, and it's because I wanted to reset because I used too much ammo. So it wasn't a difficult game, but there was a time I died, and I realized because there's save points throughout the game that you go to.
Yep.
And I died quite far away from the save point, and my first thought was like, oh no, I've lost all of this progress. But then I realized that, oh no, there are just invisible autosaves in the background. And it put me straight back to kind of where I was. And that ruined a lot of the tension for me, because a lot of the stress was, it's been a while since I've saved.
Yeah.
Almost like a Dark Souls bonfire type thing. It's if I die now, I'm going to lose this progress. So I'm stressed, not because, I'm scared because I'm so immersed. It's, I got to be really careful and sneak around because if I die, I'm going to lose all this progress. And once that kind of was shattered for me, then I was sort of like, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to run through kind of Rambo style, and if I die, I die.
Yeah, I actually died 12 times. So I died quite a few times.
Okay.
But for me, it was more like I felt like I could see the building blocks of the game quite quick. So then I was comfortable. Even though it was horrible, I was like, well, I know nothing's going to jump out because nothing ever has done. And it's like...
there's a lot that jumps out.
Well, there's like... you're not going to... the worst thing you're going to come across is Pyramid Head. Do you know what I mean? I kind of feel like, okay, you have the rooms, you move through the rooms like this. There's a high window, there's a low window, there's a crack in the wall. That's kind of the building blocks of the game. And anything beyond that, I was not expecting to see.
You see the formula.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's one big exception. I did actually message you about it because it was quite funny, where there's a big jump scare with Pyramid Head in in the hospital on the roof.
Oh yeah.
And I think the hospital was actually the part, I think it was the best part of the game.
Oh, do you?
For me, my favorite at least.
Wow,
yeah,
okay.
I'd like to hear yours after. But yeah, I think it does. I think the notes that you find throughout the game are really good there.
God, they're awful there, aren't they?
Well, they're really good for building up fear, because there's a lot of talk about, it's him and he's here, and then a lot of the time you wander around, you just hear breathing in the background.
Yeah.
And
but what I'm saying is, I knew that breathing wouldn't be related to something instantaneous. That Pyramid Head jump scare, you're right about. But generally, when you would hear clanging, you'd be like, well, that's not an enemy, because I kind of know the building blocks, and there's only 3 enemies. It's not one of those. So
yeah, that's true. But then there's one bit where you're just on a roof and you just go in a building and you're looking around. He's like, there's nothing for me to do here. Then you leave, and he just grabs your throat.
It's fast, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's fast.
yeah. And I was not it wasn't this big build up of tension and then the jump scare. I was just I'm looking for ammo in drawers and stuff. Yeah. And then I go out and I jumped. I went, and I kicked my leg up, and then I made my dog jump, and then she started barking, and Kai was there what is going on? It was a peaceful time, and then suddenly chaos. Everyone's shouting.
Did you play with headphones?
No.
Okay, no, me neither.
No, but I played it whenever possible, in the dark, lights down, and with sound up. Well, you
wouldn't be able to see the screen if it wasn't dark. The game's so dark, isn't it? My God. By the time I got to the labyrinth, I turned the brightness up. I was like, I've had enough now because I can't see. I need to turn the brightness up. But yeah, my favourite area was the labyrinth.
Oh, really?
Because the other thing, so this game's 50% survival horror, 50% cartography simulator, where you're basically drawing maps. And I loved the map side so much. Even doors that I'd run past and know were locked, I'm going to push up against it, so I get the lock mark.
I know.
And in the labyrinth one, he draws the map himself, and I was like, "This is great! I'm now full cartography."
That is so funny, because as you say, it marks the map. It's so every time you're in a new area, you just look so clumsy. I'm just going around like a hotel, just banging into every door, just zigzagging, just face planting, just to tick him off the list.
Yeah, but every so often he gets the map out and draws on it, so it's okay, I can see what you're doing.
Yeah, when it's this one's got a lock with the dog on it or something. The map's really good, I think, overall. But it's funny because I've literally the opposite. My favorite was the hospital, particularly the non-Otherworld version.
Oh yeah.
And then the labyrinth was my least favorite area.
Well, I got stuck in the labyrinth, the game breaking bug, which is now, whenever you're watching this, it's been fixed.
Yeah, so I don't know how much worth talking about that.
No, it's not. But I just want to put it out there that I was stuck for 2 days, which I think really added to the stress of the game. This game, I think it might have started to give me anxiety, because not only is it quite horrible, I was stressed about finishing it in time, and it was all just kind of building up, and I was like, I think I may have been dreaming about this game. Like, it was that much. It was like that big in my mind where I was like, I've got to finish it. Because also, a little bit behind the scenes, I remember I thought we were recording on Saturday. So I was like, I've only got a day to finish it, and the patch isn't out, and I was going mad.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got through, and they patched it in like 48 hours. So like, good on them. But yeah, I think it's the best map. I think it's my favorite map ever. I genuinely think that.
Really?
So
Aesthetically? Or?
No, like drawing on it and like all that. It's just like, I wish other games did that. It's so handy.
Because Resident Evil, they do the thing where they mark if you've got all of the items in a room.
Yeah,
do you think that's too helpful?
No, it's just not the same. It's not as diegetic.
Yeah.
And also him writing like, padlock, question mark, or like, 3 answers to something, and he'll write them on the map, and it's like, they're there now. So every time you go back to that map, the answers are there.
It is a good map.
It's cool.
And it seems like a lot of that is carried over from the original as well. Like I'm sure they made tweaks in the new one, but like aesthetically and the way it kind of dynamically changes with him scribbling on the map, like that was all in the original as well.
What did you think of the puzzles?
They're funny because one of the things I wasn't expecting, because as you said, this game isn't like campy like Resident Evil. It's a bit more serious. I was expecting the puzzles to be a little bit more like, I need to get through this door, so I need to find a crowbar, or like I need to get that bucket down, so I need to get some rope and something heavy. But the puzzles feel very Resident Evil, and it's sort of this like, there's a clock with 3 holes, and can you arrange the demons so they're facing each other? It's like all of these really bizarre ones. I got like an example. Yeah, so there's one puzzle where, so the thing I was trying to do is I found a briefcase on a bed with a combination lock.
Yes, I know where that is, yeah.
Yeah, and so the way I solve it is I got to go onto the roof where I saw a book on another bit of roof with a window.
Yeah.
So I had to shoot the glass, go down to where it landed, open the book, which had a can opener inside.
Oh, yeah.
Take the can opener to open a can of red paint, to paint a light bulb red, to put into the bathroom and turn it on, and it appears secret writing for the combination lock. Like that is what I picked up, but like the puzzles are just bonkers. Like I think you can get away with it because you're like, well, this isn't a real place, and they're kind of playing with his mind. It's like you can justify it like that, but like it is a lot of just, why does this place? And like the fact that like the way that you get items is like you're going around, like I think it's the apartment block, and you're going to all these places, and you suddenly see there's one toilet filled with this horrible goop, and there's just an option to stick your hand in it. And it's like, he doesn't know there's anything going to be useful going to be in there. Yeah.
3 levels deep. That press X to go deeper. I was like, oh man, just get your arm out there.
I think I told you I would have had a cup of tea and left it in. But yeah, and then you get like the puzzle piece that you need, but like there's no logical way that he would know. Why didn't he put his hand in every toilet? And,
true.
Like it makes no, like it's worse than point and click adventure design in terms of like logic. But like all of the puzzles are like fine and fun enough, but they just are so abstract, it's almost distracting.
Yeah, I tell you what I did like about them though, is that they were like really swift. There was no time of, I think we talked about it in Plucky Squire, that was like, I know the solution and now I have to act it out, and that's annoying. Whereas in this game, it's so fast. It's like, oh, I found the key and I already know exactly what this key is for. I know where it is. I know how to get there. So it's always like, it's very, like you're always moving forward, which I actually think I prefer these to the Resident Evil puzzles, which tend to be like, I found a gem and the challenge is getting back to where the gem is. Whereas in this game, back to where it goes. Whereas in this game, it's all very close together. And also the other cool thing about the puzzles in this game is that they have multiple solutions.
Oh, do they? Do you have any examples?
So there's one where it's like, you've got these 3 coins, and it's about, I think it's like a story about a guy who goes up to a woman with a sword, and then she gets bitten by a snake. Yeah. And then I think they all die or something, and it's like, but whose fault is it? It's like the puzzle. And any one of those coins will work.
Okay.
So it's like, but so you put it in and you pass, and you're like, oh, great, I did it. But so things like that affect what ending you get.
Ah.
And there's another one that's like, there's like 8 people who broke, like stories of people who broke the law, and it's like, who do you think is the most justified?
Oh, is this like the gallows in the prison?
And it's like, any of them will work.
I spent So I could, for the video viewers, I'm going to fast forward the footage of me trying to solve that puzzle. Actually, I hope I was recording that bit, but I think I was.
One? Who did you pick?
I
picked the guy whose mum was beating him up, and he killed his mum.
I think there was one that actually hadn't done a crime. I think it was. I can't remember which one I picked in the end, but I went. Because you got to like pair them up in the first place, and I spent so long trying to like work out which one it is. Oh, I wish I just selected. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you don't even have to pair them up. It just says in the description like, or just go for it.
Yeah,
and then, but yeah, it's cool. Like the fact that they have these more open-ended puzzles. That I mean, it's even cool. Maybe it's even cooler. You didn't realize.
Yeah. I think I probably had best case. I didn't realize at the time, so I got that, and then now I got the reveal. I think I had best case scenario, and some of the puzzles in like an individual location are quite good. There's quite a cool one where there's like a big painting on a wall, and then you got to arrange books in like the right way.
Well, it's in the reverse way, isn't it? Because the spears is reversed. The spears are reversed.
There's like what seems like a very simple puzzle, and then you're doing it like, oh, why isn't it working? And then you look closer, and then you work it out. So like, I don't think the puzzles are bad. Like they're not particularly difficult, and a lot of them set up a reason why you need to explore these generally quite large areas. You know, there'll be a box that's locked and there's all different chains going in different directions. So you can follow the different chains. Yeah. So I think they serve the purpose well, but I was expecting them to be a little bit more grounded. Not that I'm saying that I think it's a huge problem that they're not, because the world is so weird, and especially towards the end where locations end up blurring into each other, and it all goes,
like physics is just thrown out the window. You know, you'll spend 60 seconds running down a staircase underground, then you'll jump down 4 floors, and then you'll walk out the door and you'll be back on the ground again.
And there'll be like a lake there.
But just quickly on that puzzle, because I know you mentioned the one with the can opener. The other completely mad one is there's a garbage chute that's blocked, and for some reason James is like, I need to unblock that. Which, like, why would you be like that? And then you're in an apartment complex. You literally go in probably 15 different apartments. You have to find the one can of tomatoes to put down the chute that's heavy enough to knock stuff down. It's like, mate, just throw anything down there. Like, anything that hit around you will be big enough to smash through that.
The same with the town where you need like a coin, and there's one coin. It's like where did all the coins go? Like, where's there only one coin that you find?
Yeah,
you can choose the difficulty of the puzzles. I left everything normal.
Same,
but I do like it when games give you different difficulty scales for combat and puzzles.
Yeah,
like normally difficulty you'd expect would only affect combat, but it's kind of nice if you're like, you know what, I just don't enjoy these puzzles, I want it easy, or you know, I don't want to be stressed by the combat, but I don't want to lose out on the puzzles. And overall, just so I don't skip it, just the settings in general in this game are like amazing. There's like a really deep menu, loads of accessibility settings, but just ways just to tailor the experience to just how you want it. They did a really good job there.
And I don't know if they added it in the patch or if it was originally there, but at the beginning it has a message that says, the default settings are like what we think is good, but please feel free to change them to whatever you want.
And it's nice because psychologically, I'm always someone that's like, nope, whatever the developer intended. So, like, I think the way that they word these settings is careful. Like, even just saying easy, normal, hard, it's sort of like, oh, easy, you know? It's sort of like my gamer pride can't handle that, you know? But I think if you word it like nicer, then you can just, I guess. Yeah, you can accept to have the settings that you would actually enjoy the game most.
Did you turn off the red screen after I told you about it? You know when you get red when you get hurt?
Yeah, no, I just healed.
You just healed?
Yeah, because if you use one like medicine bottle, that's just heals that.
I just hate the red screen. It does my head in. We need to leave that in 2024. I hate red. When you get hurt, what I'm talking about is when you get hurt in games and the edge of the screen goes red. Oh, it's so annoying. Or like a heartbeat or something.
It's normally like in Call of Duty or something, it's fine. Like I think, because it goes red for a second, it goes. Whereas this, it's just no. That is the way you know that you're hurt. And obviously, on the PlayStation, the controller changes color as well.
That's how I did
but I don't play like looking at.
Oh no, I would just look down.
Like I don't. So yeah, I mean, I think I would find it annoying if ever I was low on health. But like I was usually pretty much most of the game at least 40 healing items, like the whole game. So if I got hurt, I'd just it's got them to spare. I was giving them out to people.
40 is crazy. I was on like 4 or 5.
Really?
I mean, I found the game difficult.
Oh, okay.
So maybe my melee combat's not as good as yours. I'm not trained on Dark Souls like you are. So dodging out the way of attacks. I don't know how many parallels.
Well, it was just as soon as I realised, like I saw all of their tricks. Like I said, most of them have like 3 attacks, and so I just got into a habit. Kind of what I say to you with Bloodborne is, I attack twice, and then I'm just waiting to watch what they're going to do, and then I do the dodge, then I get 2 hits in.
Yeah.
And then normally if it was the nurses, because they take too long meleeing, it's like 3 shots to the head will take them out.
Yeah, those guys that crawl underneath the ground were the ones that really did me in.
Yeah.
God, and I was talking to community member Muppet on our Discord because he played for it as well. And he was like, "Oh yeah, just hit them in the hands 3 times each." And I was like, "I can't. Like, they just keep killing me."
You don't have to kill them.
I know you can run past them, but like with those guys, I was like, I've tried running by them. I've tried because they roar and you kind of get stunned. I was like, I've tried dodging as soon as the roar's done. I've tried waiting and then dodging. I was like, I just can't do anything to get around them. But anyway,
we should talk about bosses while we're on it.
Yes, we should. We should talk about bosses.
So there's a few bosses in the game. So the first one is, can't believe it's not come up yet, the infamous Pyramid Head.
Yeah.
And that was this is something that Ollie knows, is I hate bosses that you just can't kill but you can shoot.
Yeah.
And then especially, I mean, I hate it in Resident Evil, and I think is it 7, the one in the house?
Yeah, Jack Baker.
Yeah, well, I think there's a bunch of them where it's like they're there and you can shoot them, it does no damage, and then randomly it's their boss fight, and now you can kill them. So it's you get the double whammy of you could waste all of your ammo when you can't kill them, and you might not shoot them when you can kill them. So I hate that. And this game has a few bosses that you don't need to shoot at all, and then some that you do. And so, like, after the Pyramid Head fight, where I realized you just don't need to shoot them, you just literally, I just run in a circle for a bit and just didn't take any damage, just avoided it easily because I'm faster than it and there's stuff in the way. So after that, when I got to every boss fight, I just quickly Googled, like, can I kill this one? Can I kill? Just, did you? Would not like any strat, just to like, is it worth me shooting them or not? Because like, what's...
That's so funny.
But that's not like a fun thing to work out. It's just like...
Well, no, I just played the game, mate. I didn't think about it.
Yeah, I did that first and I got annoyed. And so I took precautions into my own hands and be like, is this like... When I got to like the hanging one in the hotel, I was like, can I fight this one, or am I gonna?
I ran away.
Am I gonna dodge it for a while and then something's gonna happen to release me or something?
What did you do?
I killed it.
Did you?
Kill it.
I ran away. I ran to the end of the room, lured him down there, ran back, pushed the wardrobe out the way, went through the door.
Okay.
But actually, I think big negative of this game is Pyramid Head. I don't think he's that scary. He's like not really a threatening presence, and when you do see him, it's scripted. Oh, it's just like he's just a guy. He's like the same height as me. He's like. He's fine. I mean, I found this game very affecting, like really stressful, really horrible, like seeing characters die. I was literally like sitting in front of my TV like this. But Pyramid Head, I was just like, he's not that bad. Like, especially, I think maybe the first time you fight him might be part of the reason of that, because he's not good at combat. Yeah,
I think that's and like you're in the room with him for a long time, and like I think that is the time when you start seeing him as like kind of not great AI. You know, it's like like in the cutscene when you're like in like the wardrobe and like he's like, what's this thing? What's he doing? And he's a bit more ambiguous. He's a bit more scary then. But then once you get to like, oh, I'm locked in a room with him, that's just 4 minutes of just seeing him running around doing that same animation.
Missing you with his big sword.
Yeah.
I swing.
I see that. Like, I think obviously he's an iconic design. I thought he was going to be a bigger presence throughout the game. I thought he was going to keep popping up more than he did. There's a chase sequence a little bit later on in the game where he's chasing you, where it tries to be really intense, but it's got the problem that a lot of those chase sequences have, where like you're looking at the way that you're going and he's behind you, so you don't even see him. Like you just see like rubble and stuff. And I was like, I saw him at the beginning. I know he's there, but I'm just running to music. I don't even see him.
I think. Okay. This game's got like multiple endings. I think I can guess what ending you've got based on what you've told me.
Okay.
Did you? Okay, this is the last chance for spoilers. Jump away, leave if this game sounds like something you want. Speaking of leave, was that the ending that you got?
So...
It will say on your stat screen if you've got your stat screen.
Yeah, shall I bring it up?
Yeah, I got mine on my laptop so I can have a look, but...
I think it might have been... Yeah, leave.
You did, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's basically, you get that ending if... As far as the game can tell, you only care about yourself.
Okay.
So doing things like always being at full health, not going to help Maria when she's being chased by Pyramid Head. Because you were saying, running forward, I wasn't looking backwards.
We were running together.
But she falls.
Okay.
And or not spending time basically making sure she doesn't get attacked. And also some characters give you things, like if you inspect those things, it changes your ending. The most common ending is called In Water.
Okay.
I got Leave as well.
Okay.
So I'll send you. In Water, the game ends.
Leave brothers.
Yeah. Probably the saddest, most awful ending I've ever seen.
Oh my God.
I can't believe we just fist bumped it. It was absolutely horrible. So, okay, first of all, let's go through that.
Should we go for our stats while they're here?
Yeah.
Because I know you got yours ready. I guess I'll do mine. So yeah, I played on standing. So there's eight endings.
8 endings. 3 of them you can get through the first time, and then 5 of them are locked behind New Game Plus.
Okay. And then I got just under 14 hours playtime.
Yep.
And then distance travel's not going to really matter. Consumables picked up 416 because let's see what the difference was here.
Okay. Well, God, mine are blurry. Okay, so my playthrough 12 and a half hours. Distance traveled 46 kilometers. Oh, yours is way higher than mine. What was your things picked up?
416.
321.
Okay.
And then
number of times checked map. Oh, you loved your map. 700 times.
Absolutely loved it, mate. I told you I love the map. I loved it. Every time I hit a door, I check it. Yeah, just to look at it. I loved it.
There's another page of stats. I love the stat page at the end. Enemies killed 354.
263. I ran around a lot of them.
Ah, okay. Favorite weapon? Oh, we both love the steel pipe.
Oh, it's because every time I kill an enemy, I whack it with the pipe to make sure it's dead.
Okay, and then number of dodges performed?
577. I guess it makes sense if you kill more enemies, you're probably fighting
769. More. Then died twice. Oh, healing items used 99.
105.
Okay,
I found the game hard. I found the game difficult.
Yeah,
combat wise. So yeah, the story of this game, ending and the rest of it, is an unusual video game story. I feel like the whole game, and you may not realize this till the end, but it's based around horrible things that people can do to each other, the horrible things that families can do to each other. And rather than being like, oh, I'm the victim and this is terrible, you are in fact the perpetrator of such horrible things. And it is, even though I saw it coming and I texted you and said, I think this is what's going to happen, the ending was still horrible because it gives you a flash of... So basically, I'm just going to explain what happens to the whole thing. James goes to Silent Hill to find his wife, and then he kind of unravels that he killed his wife. She was sick with an unnamed illness, and then I think he smothers her with a pillow.
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense thematically that he would do that. And then he kind of has this realization at the end where he's watching a video of his holiday in Silent Hill, and he sees himself smothering
but
Mary.
There's a scene where he's speaking to Mary, his dead wife, and you know, in whatever form, whether it's his imagination of her or of Silent Hill, like she's in Silent Hill, whatever it is, he's speaking to her or a projection of her, and she's saying like, oh no, like I was in so much pain because of my terminal illness, like I wanted you to kill me, and then he's saying no, like I wanted to kill you as well.
So awful.
And I was, you know, basically he wanted freedom. He wanted to be rid of her because of this disease.
I mean, I think he loved her, but he'd kind of moved on and she wasn't dying quick enough. So he was like, I'm going to basically bump you off.
And then you get the letter.
And there's the letter. See, I was so shook by the ending of this game. I don't think the letter even went into my brain. But did she basically say like, I know you're going to kill me?
No, well...
She's like, I'm going to come with you, but I know you don't want me there.
So So what it is, it's basically she was in hospital.
Yeah.
And then she was like, they're letting me leave the hospital to come home, not because I'm getting better, but just because they know this will be my last chance to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that's so brutal is she's saying that like, but I'm worried because I don't think you want me there. Yeah. And she's like, I don't know whether you like are disgusted by me or pity me, but I can tell when you come to like visit me that like you don't want to be there. And she is excited about leaving hospital for the last time to go home, but she knows that James doesn't want her there, which is just the most heartbreaking thing. But then she's not angry about it, and she's like, I want the best of you, and like it is it is the by far the most emotional I've ever got from any video game. That letter at the end is like the
Mate,
just the thought of being in her situation
I know.
of like knowing you're dying and this should be the final time going home to be with your husband, and just despite him not saying it, like just sensing that he doesn't want her to be there.
Yeah.
Like that is, it's just awful. It's just so horrible.
Look, also, James is an awful. He's a great leading man, great acting, everything. He was so good. He's an awful, awful person.
Yeah.
Even I felt a bit being in his position. Even that, I was a bit like, it's difficult for him as well because he obviously loved her. He went back to Silent Hill to find her.
Yeah.
I guess he was a glimmer where he was like, maybe she's not sick.
Well, I think what it is he saw the letter, and I think he's probably spent 3 years tormented and full of regret and feeling awful about himself. And then he sees this letter. I think he doesn't believe it, but he's going to go there anyway just to find out what is going on. And it explains, like, there's a lot of the weirdness with him and his almost like apathy to situations where he's like, you know what, I know I'm going somewhere dangerous and it's awful. He sort of doesn't seem like to care. He doesn't seem to have any self-preservation.
No,
he's, like,
he's destructive.
Yeah, he's like, I
will stick my arm in a hole in the wall when I don't care. It's like whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, and he just seems a bit like removed from kind of every situation he is. Like when he's talking to other people, he's kind of just going through the motions. I think the voice acting throughout is good, but him in particular is just a brilliant voice. And especially considering so much of the dialogue is lifted directly from the original. I went back and watched, like, literally just before this podcast, some of the original cutscenes. And it's funny because, like, there's a weirdness to them because of how goofy they look and sound in certain ways. That does have a special quality, but the words are almost the same. It's very different the way that they're delivered, and my assumption is that this remake's probably truer to the original intentions, would be my guess.
Did you cry at the end?
I didn't cry, but I felt like fragile.
I sat in the dark after it ended because I was sitting in the dark anyway. When the game ended, I just sat there and I was like, that was the most horrible. I think it might be the most horrible story in media I've ever heard. Really, really awful.
I went upstairs and gave Kai a hug.
Did you?
Yeah, they can.
Bridie came in and I was like, we're so lucky that we don't have these things in our lives. But with James being like, he's acting so disconnected. The other thing that I noticed is you're also disconnected from him. It's like where does he live? I don't know. He doesn't live in Silent Hill, but where does he come from? Doesn't tell you. What's his job? You don't know anything about him. All you know about him is that he's come to Silent Hill to look for his wife. And there was a few things in the game that, I mean, I thought it was going to play out differently. So I thought basically what happened is he killed his wife through domestic abuse. That's where I thought it was going. And I thought Angela, who's one of the survivors, one of the people you meet in Silent Hill, I thought Angela was his daughter.
Okay.
Because she's like, I'm looking for my mum. And he's like, I'm looking for my wife. And she's like really frosty with him. And she pulls a knife on him. And I was like, well, of course she would. Because if he's beating her mum up, which is what I thought, I was like, well, but then obviously I found out that's not the case.
Yeah, but I think it seemed like someone in her life was abusive to her.
Yeah,
and
that's what
probably her dad.
Yeah,
and so that's why I think. But then, do you reckon she set fire to the house? Is that what you think? That was my guess, because there's a bit of I think the last scene with her where there's all fire around her. And like she's looking for a mama, and so my guess was maybe she set fire to the house to kill the dad, but also killed the mum. And then she's like, there's all this fire, and he's like, it's hot. And she's like, oh, you can see the fire too. Like, I always see fire here.
Yeah, or alternatively, it's just like everyone's punishment within Silent Hill is different, and hers is that she looks like she lives in hell. Like, it looks like that to her because...
Yeah.
I know there's a famous line in Silent Hill 3 where one of the other characters says to you, oh, they look like monsters to you. So that kind of put in my head, like, everyone kind of sees a different thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the game, like, the fact that all of the enemies that you fight are feminine, I was like, oh, this guy's like beating up his wife. And then like one of them is really sick, one of the enemies, and one of them is like a mannequin that you'd look at. Then he's got these like sexy nurses running around. Because like the worst thing about James is that he did it because like he wanted to sleep with women. That's why he did it. Because you meet you meet Maria. I'm not bloody James getting mixed up. But you meet Maria and James is like, hang on a minute. what's going on with Maria? Like, oh, and she's like, oh, do you want to touch me? And he's like, oh, I don't know. Like, ooh, like, and then there's this scene where they're like,
I don't think he's that full. I think she's like overtly flirtatious, and he's like,
yeah, but what if
he could have been pushed back stronger in some scenes?
What if he's made her up? Because she looks like Mary.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's what I want. Like, she's funny. She makes jokes. She's playful. Like, great.
I think either he's made her up, or I think it's whatever being, or whether it's the village is creating all of this.
Yeah.
I think the village has created her as almost like a punishment for him, because at the end, like, she's kind of the final boss. So she looks like Mary and is like, hey, look, I'm good. We can go off together. And he's like, no, you're not Mary. You're Maria. And then she's like, oh, yeah, I am. And turns into a big monster. And that's the fun. So I think she has been sort of created to like toy with him by whatever had makes Silent Hill tick.
Yeah, I think the fight against her, like, I was so moved by the cutscene. That boss fight, I was like, what the hell are we doing? Like,
yeah, like
this is like a PS2
boss
level
fight,
boss fight. But anyway, the interesting thing, the in water ending, which is the most popular ending, it doesn't include. He never speaks to Mary.
Oh, so what does
that whole scene where he speaks to Mary in the bedroom is not in the game? Like, it's not in that version. So instead, he basically leaves Silent Hill after killing Mary, Maria, bed person, gets in his car, realizes what he's done, and then drives his car into the lake. And so he never justifies why he did it.
So how do they know what he's done, like players in that circumstance?
Well, they see the video. So the video of him killing her is in it, but him saying to her, like, oh, I hate you.
Yeah.
Is not. So when I was
I'm glad I got my ending.
Yeah, same, but I think we got like the most horrible. I mean, on one hand, it's like best ending for James because he gets to leave Silent Hill. But on the other hand, it's like absolutely horrific. And then the third ending is Maria becomes James's girlfriend.
Okay.
And they leave. I assume they leave together. And then the other ones are like joke ones, but like you can't get them anyway. But yeah, it's just awful, awful story. So dark, and really opened my eyes to what a dark story can really be. You know, and also because video game, you are in the center of it as well, which makes it even more affecting.
I wonder. Imagine if I had picked up Silent Hill 2 rather than Silent Hill 3 back when I was younger. Like, I wonder what would like teenage versions of us made of this game. Like, would we have been too juvenile for the story to affect us? You think?
Definitely.
You think we probably would have been skip the cutscenes or whatever? I would have shoot something.
Yeah. Or maybe we would. I don't know. I don't know. I couldn't say. But it's just it's so heavy. To the point now where it's like, I thought this game was really good. If someone told me this was their favorite game, I'd be like, what is wrong with you? Like, it is that grim and that bleak. And like, I can't imagine someone being like, oh no, I'm going to stick on some Silent Hill 2. Because it's so
there's
horrible.
Things that could be your fun. You know, like Disco Elysium is one of my favorite games.
At least it's got a bit of joy in it.
I know, but it's like, but I don't feel like, let's pop it in and have another round. You know,
yeah.
That is a bleak kind of dark game.
I think this is darker than Disco Elysium.
Yeah, no, I think so. But I think favorite game, I don't think when someone says this is my favorite game, you need to start doing like a personality test.
I don't need to. It's that dark that I'd just be like, whoa, that is bleak. And then the other thing that I thought, I don't know if this is the case, but Pyramid Head, I found him a very confusing presence because you go to the Silent Hill Museum and learn about the history of the town, and you see Pyramid Head as the judge and executioner in a painting. And I was like, okay, so maybe he's haunting these people because they believe themselves to be judge and executioners of the people around them. But then I was like, but then he saw Pyramid Head before he goes to the museum, so if it is in James's head, how would he know what Pyramid Head looked like? I don't know. I was just like, I'm getting too confused here.
I wonder if Pyramid Head could be the creator of all of this. I didn't get that sense from him that he's like a math. He's there with a chessboard planning out all of these puzzles.
No. Yeah, but there is that really cool scene. Actually, this is jumping way back where you get Pyramid Head's sword and you drag it through the strange wall.
Yeah,
and all of the enemies and everything recoil from you. That's crazy, man. I was like, man, that's going to stay with me. You know, really crazy game.
Yeah, a lot of crazy visuals. I will say overall, I found the Otherworld sections not as engaging as the normal sections. Like I always kind of forgot that we'd have to do that bit. So like I'd finish an area and then I'd go to the Otherworld bit. It's like, oh, okay, I got to go to like this. You know, it's different the Otherworld version, but it's still the same general layout. And I think because it's sort of a general grime on everything, it kind of makes everything look a little bit the same.
Yeah, I get
that. Gameplay wise, it's almost exactly the same. It's like it's not scary. If anything, it's less scary because there's normally more enemies. And so I feel like, oh, this was quite an interesting like location. I thought I was done. Now I got to spend usually not the same amount of time, but maybe about a third of the same amount of time in this area. But it looks now less interesting. But I'm just doing the same type of puzzle, same sort of combat. Like it didn't like. I feel like it needed to be more significantly different than the normal version of the world.
Yeah, I agree. And in the original game, only 2 of the locations have other world versions, and then in the remake, they just gave every single location another world version.
Okay,
so I don't know. They also made the game like 8 hours longer, and the original was only 10 hours, I think.
Yeah, I did hear that they made like the town, because in terms of the town, what we think of in terms of going in shops and on the street, I know that in the original that was actually just a very short amount of time, mostly at the beginning of the game, and it's still not a huge portion of the game here, but you do spend more time in the town, and after sections, you often will go back and have a bit of time in the street. Once again, I don't think it was the most interesting time. Like it was kind of cool just having a different location. But there's a lot of just going up streets and breaking cars to see if they got ammo in them.
Quite cool. I think that was quite a cool little touch they added though, smashing the windows to find items. They didn't really use it enough, but quite cool that they did add that.
Yeah. But like it did kind of feel like the in between time before you get to a new location.
Have you got anything else you want to add to this? Mad game.
The music in the background of the cutscenes was bonkers.
Do you know what? Everyone loves the soundtrack of this game. I was fine. I didn't think it was that good. Like, it's not that it was bad, but people were like, "Oh, I've got to buy the CD," or like, "When's the soundtrack coming out?" It's like,
okay,
it's okay.
I think during gameplay. And like it's kind of the thing where music blends into sound effects and creates an audio landscape. I thought that was good. That was good. But
that was good. Yeah.
There's a lot of times where you get a cutscene and it's just a serious cutscene with 2 people speaking to each other quite quietly, and then just quite loud, upbeat music with like drums and stuff, and it felt a little bit out of place. And I think probably it was a thing that they couldn't have changed from the original. Maybe it was intentional, trying to create a weird vibe, but it just didn't really seem to work for me.
There's also a line that came up a couple of times that really undercut the whole vibe, which is, why does Laura always call you a fart face? I was like, what? Like, it feels like one of those things that it was in the original, and it's like, well, we can't change it because everyone will go mental. Like, you know, saying it was a part of the original game, they called you fart face. But then it's like, playing it for the first time in 2024, I was like, why do they keep saying it? Like, she says it to you, and she's like, locks you in this room, and she's like, "You're a fart face," runs off, and then about 3 hours later, James comes back, he's like, "Oh, I'm a fart face, am I?" And I was like, why do you keep saying it? Stop saying it. Stop drawing attention to it.
I think that's like a 37-year-old adult male was writing dialogue for like a 6-year-old girl. Like, I think that's probably what it was.
Yeah. I've got a couple more things. One of them on the visuals. One of the absolutely real, like, mind-blowing visual moment, for me anyway, was you're running through an apartment building quite late in the game, going down, and then you get to the downstairs lobby, and instead of it being the lobby, it's like a full graveyard. And then you have to jump through your own grave. And I was like, this rules. It's so good. So that was one thing that was crazy. And then another thing is, I feel like quite a lot of the elements of the game design really reflects the story really, really well in a way that kind of reminds me of Zero Ranger. Like in Zero Ranger, we were talking about how every aspect of the game feeds into this like erasing and starting again. Whereas I feel like every aspect of this game really feeds into like, how is James feeling? Even though he's not outwardly saying it. And how does he need to get over things? So like quite a lot of the puzzles are like, oh, you pull a sheet off something, which is a bit like, you need to face like what you've done. Like you smothered your wife, you need to remove the sheet now and like deal with it. A lot of the things were going down, spiraling down with a lot of looping, going over the same things over and over again. And then not only that, there was even like posters and stuff in Silent Hill that were like referring to the story, but you wouldn't realize until you knew the end. But like, because I already had it in my mind that he was going to kill his wife, there was like a coffee place that was called like Spill the Beans.
Oh, okay.
And there was another poster in the hospital that was like, if you have these symptoms, and it was like insomnia, hypersomnia, lack of appetite, guilt, worry, and then when you press triangle to like read it, they're all there except for guilt is missing off of the list.
That's smart.
What else have I got? Oh, the burger joint had loads of posters saying like, satiate your craving, feel the craving, just go for it, and stuff like that, which is like him being a horn dog.
And I guess people might be seeing the wrong thing, but it's not just him running around here. There could be all people are there for different reasons. Yeah,
and then I guess the other thing is with the nurses, like I know that they seem, I mean, they're obviously in poor taste, but that's kind of the game is in poor taste. But I know a lot of people complain about them, the way they look, but to me it was like the nurses being the one other thing apart from his wife that he sees often. And if that's what he wants, of course they're going to look like that because that's what he's like.
Yeah, it's weird with James because it's clever because he's not like, obviously he's not a good person, but he's not. It's not like, oh, he broke into someone's house and stabbed them or something. It's like his wife was dying and wanted to be put out of his misery, and he did what was her wishes, but it was the reason he did it and what he was feeling when he did it.
But only in our ending.
Well, it's only in our ending we know about it.
Well, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's only when it's explained. But, like, it's, it's not like, oh, like, he was happily married and stuff, and then he, like, cut the brake cable in her car. It was like, no, like, he was, like, if she didn't ask him to kill her, he probably wouldn't have.
No.
So he did what she wanted, but, like, it was actually what he really wanted to do. And I'm sure even before that, he was wanting to move on with his life, but like was probably still feeling guilty about it. And like in her letter, she says like, I'm looking forward to dying because I want you to remember me for like who I was, not who I am now. And I think that probably happened. I think she probably died and he was like, okay, good. I'm going to move on. And then he probably started thinking about all of the times that he did have with her, feeling immense guilt for what happened. Then he gets this letter and he's like, I'm going to go. Like it's, like it's probably he hasn't been able to move on. And a lot of this is me making assumptions.
No, but that's all we can do. That's all you can do, right?
That was my read on the situation.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? I'm glad we had a similar... I did think that you were going to get the in-water ending just because it's the most common one.
Okay.
But then obviously we ended up getting the same one, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I thought I got it because I basically speed ran the last third of the game because of my bug. So I was like constantly running, like not looking at anything. So I was like, oh, that's why I got it. Anyway, are you ready for questions?
Yep.
Oh, my laptop. There we go. Right. Neil in the Discord asks, how was the performance on PS5? I'm seeing a pattern of Unreal Engine games on PC where I get stuttering when games are clearly loading the next area of the game. Silent Hill 2 also suffers with this.
The performance wasn't good. It was, so I played on performance mode.
Same.
And, it's meant to be 60 FPS, but it doesn't. So certain areas, like outside areas, like I think it's especially bad right at the beginning of the game. So it does a really bad first impression with a lot of the stuff in the town. It's shaky. It's kind of up and down. It's not unplayable. It's not awful. But yeah, it's not a smooth experience. I didn't really notice for who knows when stuff are loading in. Like I didn't notice it so much as like, oh, here's one stutter as it's loading in. It was just more constantly kind of just being a little bit up and down. I kind of wish there was a mode just to like lock it at 40 maybe, or like lock it at 30, because if you get a quality mode you then get an unstable 30 FPS. I kind of just want either of them just to be stable. It kind of pays the price for how good the game looks.
Yeah. Did you ever actually install that update?
Yes. Yeah.
Because in the end they did patch the performance.
Okay.
It's noticeably better, but it's still not great. That's basically how I played through it in the end. Okay. Anv on the Discord asks, do you feel like having more control over the situation you're put in makes horror games more scary than horror movies or less scary? They've also got their own answer as well. Do you want to see their answer?
My answer is just yes. So
do you think they're scarier than films?
I think games, at least have the potential to be scarier than films.
I'm the other way.
Okay.
Because I'm like, in a game, normally I'm the most powerful thing in the game. And if I'm not, I'm normally good enough that I can kind of avoid like anything too dire. Whereas in a film, all you can do is scream at the person like, you need to turn around, and they obviously can't hear you. Anyway, Amph said, personally, I feel the lack of control you have in a movie aids them in jump scares, which I'm not a big fan of, while the control you have over your character in a game allows them to have much stronger ambience and immersion through environmental storytelling, which I feel like has more of an impact than cheap jump scares. And I agree as well with that bit. Okay, this one's quite long, but it's something a lot of people touched on. So, Monkey from Ape Escape on YouTube, which is a fantastic username, said, I find the modern treatment of creative works as a disposable product to be soul-crushingly disheartening. I noticed that Silent Hill 2 Remake approaches remaking the original by attempting to fix any unique quirks by thickly plastering over it with general good modern game design ideas, regardless of how they fit with the original's goals. For example, the complete combat reworkings, the empty feeling of cutscenes, excessive padding, in this effort to be more palatable to a wider audience, what results in a homogenized sludge that loses the lightning in a bottle sensation of the original. Just because there's more, but I'm going to stop there and just say, as someone who played through this game for the first time, the lightning in a bottle was definitely there. Like, I thought it was unbelievable, but obviously I never played the original. They said, even though the series has been mostly neglected for 10 years and without a good entry for the last 20, I believe there's an immensely greater benefit in revitalizing a dormant franchise like this by simply re-releasing the games on modern storefronts, possibly with minor quality of life improvements such as fixing game-breaking bugs or streamlining menu navigation. Thoughts on how older works can be presented to a modern audience without diminishing the artistic intention and the impact of the originals. And also Wrong Browsers and Leo Gaming mentioned having remake fatigue as well. So we did Dead Rising last episode, and one thing you pointed out, which I hadn't really thought about, is the fact that the original game is still available. That's probably the best way of doing it, right? Is like have the remake and also have the original. But on the other hand, I will let you speak in a second. On the other hand, I think that more people playing it is good. Make it easier. Like, do whatever you need to do to get it as many hands as possible. That's what the artists would want. I mean, the two of the original creators helped with this, so
yeah, I guess it's very easy for any time something like this is remade to say, like, you don't have to play it. You can still play the original if you want. So if you are feeling remake fatigue, there's not a lack of original games. Like, there's sometimes where it feels like, they've just recently remade Horizon Zero Dawn. It's sort of like, was the time spent to remake that worth it when the original looks so good and has like modern game design? Like, there's an argument for that, but then teams might be doing that to learn a new engine or like as a training tool or whatever. It's they're developing the story of the next thing, so the artists are all spare. There can be reasons where it makes sense for a team to be doing a remake. But there is also the case that if a game is remade, it might mean that if someone is going to play one of them, they're going to play the remake. Whereas if they were going to play it, they might have played the original, and it can maybe overshadow the original. So I listened to Yahtzee did a review on both this game, and I think he also just did a dedicated video about like kind of remakes talking about Silent Hill.
He did Silent Hill 2 Remake as a video.
Okay, and cool. So Silent Hill 2 is, I think, either his favorite game or one of them. He says he's played it like 6 times or something. So at the beginning, he's like, don't expect like an unbiased review. And, and he's like, basically, no, this game, like, it's really good, but like the exact quote he says is, they've taken something unique and made it like everything else. And
for the remake.
Okay, yeah. Because he's saying that, like, you used to have, before these remakes, you had Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 4, and Silent Hill 2, which were all really distinctive games.
Yep.
And then now they're all very similar games. And he's not saying, like, he's really, like, and he's not just angry man with a stick moaning. Mm-hmm. He's like, the camera is better. Like, the controls are better. Like, he's not saying that they should have done it in the other way, but it's just, especially probably for someone, I guess we're in that bucket now, as a critic, looking at these different things, it's just a much less interesting landscape where there's such a formula for these types of games, and whether it's the new game or a remake, they all kind of look and feel a little bit similar.
Yeah, I think the over-the-shoulder survival horror game is probably my favorite genre. I will say after this, I don't know if it was just this particular game, or maybe it might be the genre as a whole. I was feeling a little bit like I can't do it again for a bit because the Alan Wake 2 DLC has just come out, and I was like, I can't face it. I don't know if that's because this game is so horrible, or if it's just like I'm just done with
Yeah. Just being in an environment and opening drawers to pick up things. I think that in particular of that is something that we didn't really speak about. I spoke about banging into doors, but every time you get to a new room, it does hurt the atmosphere and pacing a bit. Is you kind of just have to skirt the outside of it, just seeing if an interaction point pops up.
I turned the accessibility option on so that I could see interaction points as well.
From
they're just there.
Oh, from far away.
Yeah. So as long as you go in the room, you can see them.
Maybe I should have done that then. Yeah. That would have probably made it easier because every time I've got an apartment building, go from apartment to apartment, or in the hotel, it's go to the hotel. I do a little loop. Are any of these drawers I can't even see if this one's open, but this one I can, and it doesn't have anything in. And let's go to the toilet. This one might have something in the mirror cabinet.
Yeah. And sometimes they don't. Yeah, that's the annoying thing. You go for a whole room, all the drawers, cupboards, all empty.
And so that's what probably 20% of overall game time is in a room looking for things that can open. Yeah, realistically,
I saw someone online refer to it as a door knocking simulator.
Yeah,
and also it doesn't help. I think the locations are amazing, but all the locations from a design standpoint are all very similar. They're all large buildings that have many small identical rooms in.
Yeah.
Apartments, hotels, hospitals, prisons, all of them are the same, essentially.
And you can say why, because Silent Hill's weird or whatever, but the where things are don't make sense. Just in this drawer in the hospital, there's 2 bullets or whatever, compared to The Last of Us.
Yes,
it would kind of make sense where you would be finding scissors or cloths and things. This game, it's just a little bit random and it feels a little bit of its era, I guess, with that sort of basic game design where it was, this is what we're going to do because this is the way the game is, and they haven't necessarily tried to tie it in with the world.
Okay, I'll do the last question. Waterbender2461 on YouTube asked, would you recommend this game as a starting point in the franchise? There hasn't been a release in this franchise for quite some time, so is it rewarding to new players and returning ones? And I think this comes up quite a lot, but I will tell you now, the Silent Hill games aren't really related to each other, so you could pick any of them to start with and then go back to any of them, and from a overarching mythology standpoint, if that's something that interests you, I think you'd probably be fine. So you could easily start with this one.
Yeah, and I'd say this one now probably kind of stands on its own gameplay-wise, just because of the modern game design. It's probably you could like this game. That doesn't necessarily mean you will like any of the other ones, or you could like the other ones. Doesn't necessarily mean that you'll like this one. We haven't, as we mentioned at the beginning, played the whole series, but this game is totally fine just to go into blind and play.
There was also...
But be prepared for everything that we mentioned.
Yeah, it's the most horrible, bleak thing you've ever played in your life. And there was also a re-release of the original game that included a new short story called Born from a Wish, where you play as Maria. Would you play that if it came out?
What, a remake?
Yeah, if it came out in the new.
Or
are you done?
Maybe as DLC kind of thing. Yeah. Possibly. I think that's the sort of thing where if it comes out and I hear everyone talking about it and saying it's really good, I would. But I wouldn't say I'd be there day one, no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would really be there for the story. I was done with the gameplay by the end. The combat, there's just not enough enemy variety and just too many enemies. It was
too many.
When you get to the prison and the labyrinth, it's just so many, and it's any sense of fear or tension is just gone. It's just rooms just shooting all the enemies.
Yeah.
But it hasn't got the action game chops, and so
no.
So it kind of just loses everything. So I was completely just kind of going through the motions, just clearing out rooms by the end there. I kept waiting for them to twist or add a new interesting enemy, but those enemies you see at the beginning of the game spitting at you, they're there for the whole game.
Yeah, which is a shame. It's a big shame. I don't know if I play it. I think if it got good reviews, I might go back and play it again. Anyway, shall we go to... Oh, actually, one more thing before we go to the list. That prison section where you can turn the lights on?
Yeah.
They're so rubbish. It's there's the intensity of you turn the light on and there's a timer and you run through, the lights don't do anything because it's so dark. It's like, oh, I can slightly see the wall better, but I have a torch. Like,
I think the thinking is because that's an area where they do introduce a slightly different enemy, where it's just enemies that can climb on walls.
Yeah.
And I think the idea is when you turn the lights on, you can see them.
Ah, okay.
But yeah, like it's sort of like the darkness is just kind of as dark as everywhere else is, because everywhere's dark anyway.
It's so dark, yeah.
And the lights stay on for like 10 seconds or something.
Yeah.
I was like, am I missing something?
Same.
Is there a puzzle? Is there a door that only appears when the lights are on?
There was another part that I thought I was missing something, which is like every so often you would like look at something on a desk, like a pair of headphones, and like a guitar would go like ding, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, and the camera would pull out and it'd be like...
Yeah, all I can assume is that like in the original, that was something that you might recognise. But I don't know.
Yeah, that confused me as well. You find loads of them. And then also you find photographs. Are they just like a collectible?
They're just a collectible. I think all of these things are probably, now I'm thinking about it, feeding into which ending you're going to get.
Okay.
Did you spend the time to get them or did you just run to the end?
I found a lot of them.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, list?
Yep, list.
Did you know we have a Patreon? Maybe you're unsure what that is.
Patreon allows you to support us directly, and in return you get exclusive stuff. Access to our Discord server, behind-the-scenes content, and an exclusive podcast series.
Your support means we can up our production and continue making fun videos. You can join us at patreon.com/the bonus points. And it has a free trial too.
Woohoo!
So generally, Silent Hill 2 Remake, better than you thought it was going to be? Worse than you thought it was going to be?
I think from when I started playing it, I had already heard people talking about it and reviews coming out, and it was like getting 9 out of 10s, and everyone was everyone was saying like, oh, they nailed it, because people are apprehensive about this game because of Bloober Team's past games and from the trailers. Like people that were Silent Hill fans were nervous, and I think their expectations were low and their expectations were surpassed, and so I think I was expecting it to be better than it ended up being. Really? Yeah. So okay. I think certainly gameplay wise, I was a little bit disappointed with it. But then the story, I did not expect to have an emotional reaction from this game, really in any way other than maybe finding it a bit spooky. Yeah. So that was a surprise for me. I don't know if I'd say a pleasant surprise, but it was, like it's, hey, we're all humans. We all want to feel something, and this game made me feel something. And I wasn't expecting that. But gameplay-wise, I thought it was going to be more about atmosphere, and you're there, and you feel underpowered, and you've just got a stick or something, and you're creeping through, and you're avoiding enemies. My game. yeah. But I thought it was going to, and then I thought there'd be long periods without enemies, and you just hear the radio crackle. I knew that from Silent Hill 3. Basically, you have a radio that crackles when an enemy's near. I thought it was going to be a lot more of that, where it's a lot more of entering a room and seeing 2 enemies and shooting them, or 5 enemies and shooting them. It was more of a third-person shooter, and I thought it was going to be more... It was less horror-y because of just the amount of enemies. Yeah, and also, you're saying about the radio crackling. The radio crackle isn't like, oh, what's that? It's like, which one of the 3 is that? Yeah. And then, you just... It doesn't affect you. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it didn't really work. That radio crackle. I found it kind of funny when it was doing the radio and it was just like a little bug on the floor. That's quite. I was like, just these little guys. That's a great effect we didn't mention, by the way, is all the walls being covered in bugs. Yeah. Although in reality they would all just scurry as soon as you shine your light on them, but they would kind of run around. That's a great effect. For me, I would go as far to say this game was 10 times better than I was expecting it to be. Oh, wow, really? I had, despite how horrible it was, I had an absolute blast. I really enjoyed the map. I mean, you saw my stats. I loved the mapping side of it so much. Literally, that's what's like, the labyrinth's great. You draw in your own map. I got so much satisfaction out of running around, filling in the map, solving the puzzles, writing on the thing there's a padlock here, and I'll be like, oh, where is it? We're going to go and find it. I can't believe you're having that reaction, because the thing I love about Hollow Knight is the map. But it's like that, but you're doing it yourself. I was like, I love getting I've got this coloured badge, and I'll put this here, but this is my own system, and trying to get it's the exploration as well, but it's the mapping of the world. What I love about Hollow Knight, and so it's funny that you had that reaction to here, whereas I thought the map was good, but
loved it,
I didn't think.
Oh, I loved it, honestly.
We're like, I had emotional connection to the story. You're like, I had an emotional connection to the map.
That little red pen, mate. Oh. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I think I prefer the structure of the game over Resident Evil as well.
Oh, okay.
The moving forward, the propulsiveness of going to new locations, doing these tiny puzzle boxes one after the other, filling in the map. Like, I was thinking about Resident Evil 2, which I love. It's my favorite series. And I was like, God, I can't believe I ran around the police station for so long and in the sewers for so long. Whereas in this game, it's like you're always going to a new place. Like, the locations don't even last an hour sometimes in this one. It's just like, so good.
I'm completely the opposite.
Yeah.
I love spending a lot of time in an area and getting to learn it. I love, I think it's less in RE2, but in some of the other more modern ones, I love the upgrade system of the weapons. I find really satisfying, and finding secrets and ways to get more, whatever the upgrade currency is in that game. Like, I really like that loop, and I just think, because they actually are pretty equal in terms of the amount of combat you spend doing all of them. Like, even modern Resident Evil ones that have become more actionly, this is kind of the same, but it has less enemies, and the enemies are nowhere near as dynamic as Resident Evil. And when you shoot them in Resident Evil, they react and recoil. And I feel like Silent Hill, I wish they either weren't going to be a combat game and were more about the spooky feels and avoiding enemies and feeling underpowered, or they acknowledge that you are going to kill hundreds of enemies, or however many I ended up killing.
Yeah, like 400 almost.
Throughout the game. And so, back that up with, interesting combat encounters.
Yeah, I think Resident Evil Village, in terms of the structure of that game, is quite close to this one. Because it is like you have 5 small areas that you go to rather than one big one. And I much prefer that to having one big area. Also, the combat of this game, I think the combat is bad because of the enemy variety, not because of the actual mechanics.
No, aiming and shooting.
Yeah, I also didn't mind not upgrading. I didn't miss being able to upgrade my shotgun or anything. It was all fine.
I always find that satisfying.
I like it in games,
the choice. Do I sell this gun and buy the other one? But I've upgraded this one. I really, especially Resident Evil 4 remake, and I guess 4 as well. The
economy.
Yeah.
The economy is fun. The economy is fun.
I did like that of here. I will say, in general, it makes it I don't play horror games normally. You play them more than me. So I only really have played the modern Resident Evil games because of you kind of twisting my arm a little bit. So I'm not a horror game fan normally. I like Dead Space. There's probably not many other horror games I've played, certainly not in recent years.
Maybe it's just I'm playing a horror game where I'm like, oh, this is actually horrible. Rather than just being like, oh, it's camp, or oh, it's an action game masquerading. Whereas this actually is this is something that's going to stay with me. Yeah. Probably forever. Anyway, let's hope we're not at opposite ends of the list. Like we are.
I mean, I don't think we're going to be at opposite ends. I don't think either of us are, well, I don't know. I suppose how high you want, but it sounds like you're hotter on it than I am because of the map.
Yeah, I mean, I think this game is absolutely sensational. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead. For me, it'd easily be top 10.
Okay.
Maybe even probably easily top 5.
Top 5?
Yeah, I was...
Above Alan Wake 2?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Above Last of Us?
Yeah.
I mean, I can just keep listing games.
Just keep listing games that aren't in the top 5.
Above Harry Potter in the Chamber of Secrets.
In terms of how much I think this is going to change the trajectory of what I enjoy in terms of entertainment, I would put it with Disco Elysium.
How much of that is from the last half hour of the game?
Well, but the thing is, it's my favourite genre as well. So I was already enjoying running forward. I love the map, man. I love having that. The combat is good. It's just the enemies. I like the combat. I like the puzzles. No, but I like the maps. I like the locations. I like everything. But
the combat, you can't take the combat in isolation. The enemies are tied to
I know. But
it's like saying, I really like this platforming game, but it's the platforming, the level design's really bad, but it feels good to jump. It's well, it doesn't matter.
No, I know.
Because they work in tandem.
I know. But in terms of
it got boring. By the end, it got boring.
Yeah, it was a function. Do you know what I mean? It was you're basically fulfilling a function. But I don't think the combat...
It's the main thing you do in the game.
See, for me...
It's open drawers and shoot things.
For me, I'd say the main thing you do is solve puzzles and run through these crazy locations. The combat was for when I was playing it, I was the combat is there for someone else. I'm gonna run around the enemies or shoot them because I need to, but I'm not like, oh, I love the combat in this game. And like the fact that when you finish it, you unlock a chainsaw. I was like, I don't care. Like I don't want to use it. Like I'd rather just focus on like the other parts of the game. I mean, I think the combat was comparable to Alan Wake 2.
I think Alan Wake 2's kind of got better enemies. I think Alan Wake 2...
It's got less variety of enemies. It's got one.
I think Alan Wake 2 embraces it's more of a combat batty game.
Yeah.
But it was quite a bit buggy and fiddly, the combat in Alan Wake 2, which this didn't have. Like this had a purity to it. And I think with less or more varied enemies, it would have been fine, the system that they had. But they didn't. They threw loads of the same enemies at you, and it drew attention to the limitations.
Yeah. But anyway, I wouldn't say combat was the main thing. It's not like you're going to load up Silent Hill 2 to get headshots. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not why you're playing it. But anyway, so for me, top 10, top 5, region, easy.
Okay.
But I would never play it again. That's the weird thing about it. I'd never play it again.
That's good, because you always try to bring up, whenever I like a game, you're like, well, you wouldn't replay it. And I'm like, no. Or like, you wouldn't bring a friend around and say, let's play it. And it's not like, no. But
I would bring a friend around for this.
I know, but you always try and use that as a thing. It's like, okay, like every game should be Tetris then, because it's like a game you can play in short bursts with a friend.
I'd be okay with that.
Okay, yeah. So for me, it'd be under Half-Life Alyx. It'd be under Pokemon, because Pokemon for me, maybe it goes near Pokemon, because Pokemon for me is a top 10, and that got relegated to 18. So maybe if Silent Hill's a top 10 for you, that's the area for like the could-haves. Are we gonna
play the game that's like, if you want to play a Pokemon game, you can play 100 of them. If you want to play Silent Hill, I mean, do you know what? The other thing is, I can't imagine.
Over-the-shoulder third-person horror game.
That's true. Do you know what? I think this is different enough from Resident Evil that maybe the comparison is somewhat unfair.
No, I think the tone is so
different, but the gameplay is very similar.
Yeah.
But I think, do you know what? I can't even imagine how they followed this up with Silent Hill 3. I cannot even imagine it. Like, this game is so out there and like so original that I have no idea how you would ever... Because you couldn't do that twist again.
I think it's answered the question for me for why... Because there's essentially, for like the main line, there's 4 Silent Hill games by that original team.
Yeah.
And Silent Hill 2 is always the one that people speak about.
Mm-hmm.
I think this answered the question of why that one. Because I know people do like Silent Hill 1 and 3 and 4, and they have their defenders. I mean, Silent Hill 3 might be the best looking PlayStation 2 game.
That's what I was hearing about it, is that it looks great.
I mean, look at a screenshot of it, like at least the characters' faces are insane, but it's got very small environments, which kind of probably helps. I think I get why this is the one that people have singled out, in the same way you could look at Final Fantasy VII. You're like, oh, it's just such a unique setting. Like, it's so interesting. And this love triangle, like playing the remake of that, I'm like, okay, I get why this is the one that people remember fondly. Like, I understand that now. And I am curious with the probable success of this game. Hopefully it was successful, considering, it's reviewed so well. I do wonder, do they tackle Silent Hill 3 or 1?
I just hope they don't rush it. Like, if they want to do Silent Hill 3, I hope there's not someone somewhere banging a clipboard like, oh, quickly get on it. Like, so, because like Resident Evil 2, the remake sold really well, and then they rushed Resident Evil 3 to get it out, and it was like, I think Resident Evil 3 is good, but it's no Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
And I hope they don't do the same thing here.
Yeah, I hope they're doing a new one.
New Silent Hill.
Yeah.
Like Silent Hill F. That's the new one.
Oh, is that a new one?
There's like 5 Silent Hill projects on.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
One of them I played the short message, actually. You just reminded me. That was the one they released. Mate, we both played PT. We mentioned that. That's Silent Hill, wasn't it? But yeah, short message was Silent Hill, but it's first person. And that was nowhere near as good as this.
Yeah, I was PT, which was for people that don't know, PT is like, it was playable teaser is what it stood for. It was a teaser for Silent Hill. That's the scariest game I've ever played by far.
Oh yeah, it's horrible.
Like, that was a game I was playing with me, Kai, and my sister. We were all playing it together, and I don't need to start with the game, like after every loop, we would pass the controller and we would be like, you got to do it. It's like, oh, okay, I've just got to get this loot. And then, but like literally, like we were all fine watching it and being there.
Yeah.
We didn't want to be the ones because like nothing had happened yet, but we knew it would.
Yeah.
And going around, like literally, I was like, I am struggling to push the analog stick forward. I was that scared by it. And at the time, I'd never seen graphics like it, like the way that super realistic first person perspective, which I think games have got much better at. But at the time, like that was unbelievable. And that was actually when we had the comment up earlier about, is it scarier to watch a film or play a game?
Yeah.
Like I was literally thinking, well, for PT, I could watch them play it. But when I had the controller,
That's
I
true.
didn't,
I didn't even think of PT.
I didn't want to touch it.
No, I found that scary. Did you ever watch the follow-up trailer for PT? Like what the rest of the game was going to be like?
Like maybe, I can't remember.
We'll
if
watch after this.
Okay.
It's good. It's good. Anyway, where is it going to go, mate? Because it's not going at 18. It has to go a bit further up.
Okay, well, I think Pokemon should go up as well.
No.
Why?
Let's do Silent Hill first.
Well, no, but like we're negotiating where it's going to go. I got a bit of leverage here. I got to make the most of it. I think Pokemon, wherever they end up, Pokemon, and I'm not going to chain them. Don't worry, but I think they should sit next to each other.
Okay, look, to be honest with you, I'm struggling because I cannot even imagine comparing anything else on this list to Silent Hill 2 because it is that different that it's like I'm thinking about Pokemon like going to the Pokemon Center and like and I'm thinking about Silent Hill 2 being like the most devastatingly sad thing I've ever played, and I'm like, how can we possibly compare these things? So what's going on?
What's this? Bulbasaur is evolving.
Yeah, and it's like, mate, come on now, come on. Let's just do Silent Hill 2 first. I've got to concentrate on that, and then we'll come back to Pokemon, I promise.
Okay. I mean, well, what could you start? I mean, if I freely had it, I would put it at 19. Would be my, and that's not a compromise. So that would put it one under Pokemon Gold/Silver, one above Donkey Kong for Game Boy. Okay,
and then I would put it at probably 3 or 4.
Okay.
So the midpoint between those would be, oh my god, maths 7. So it'd be Grand Theft Auto.
So that's at 11. I mean, that's we don't do it because we don't do it maths because obviously. Because obviously we just.
We've got to start there. We've got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying because like the reason we don't do that because just every week would be right. You say what you want it. I say what I want it. And we put it in the middle, and then we lose the debate that I love.
Yes.
So
I think story-wise, somewhat comparable in that Grand Theft Auto 5 also had great voice acting, great camera work. Mate, we didn't even talk about the camera work in the cutscenes in Silent Hill 2. Absolutely mad. Camera's moving during the cutscenes. Like, what's going on? And it really drew you in. Anyway, Grand Theft Auto 5, yeah, similar, good writing, story was fine, good acting, good graphics.
I'd struggle with it above Portal 2.
Mate, it's way better than Portal 2, come on. Portal 2 is way too high. It's ridiculous. I can't even think about Portal 2 because it's so stupid. It's
Portal
like,
2.
Why is it so high?
Portal 2 is at 12 on the list, and you're saying it's way too high.
Yeah.
It's one of the best games ever made.
Mate,
there are members of the Bonus Points community that will be in tears at you saying that.
What if Silent Hill 2 is one of the best games ever made?
I don't think it is.
What? It definitely is.
But I don't think I need to even like. I think I've said during the whole podcast about all of the flaws of it. Like but
it's like despite that, it's
like
literally incredible.
The amount of time you spend banging into doors and opening things.
It's fun.
Like the nonsensical puzzles, the repetitive combat, the complete like for a survival horror game, the fact that the health and ammo is completely unbalanced to where I had over 90 bullets and over 40 healing items. And then they have the checkpoint system, so you have no tension of death. Like it feels, from what I think of as like the core for something being like a survival horror game, I think of like, okay, so it's going to be limited resources. It's going to be like building up tension with scarce encounters, with an underpowered protagonist that's struggling to get through. But I just felt like a B-rate, like B-tier Rambo, just like going through. And it's like, I just feel like I'm just blasting through like a pretty naff third-person shooter.
But what?
But the story, like the atmosphere in the story, like was so good. But like that's it. Like that's all. All of my strong feelings towards it are on just that. But like my moment-to-moment interacting with the game for the majority of the time wasn't that. It was a pretty mid third-person shooter.
Okay. All right. Well, we're not going to agree on this. We're not going to agree on this. I would say, who says that it has to be those things? A survival horror game. It could be anything. And this one, it has combat because I feel like it's a remake of a game that felt like it had to have combat, but actually,
yeah, but that's what it is. So like, it doesn't.
Yeah, but it's like I just
like they could have done something. They could have been bold enough to do something.
Take the enemies out,
or just play the well. Yeah, I think there was too many enemies.
There was too many enemies.
I would be surprised if there was that many enemies in the original.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
the game's long. The game's twice as long, right? So I guess it's got twice as many enemies.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the problem. They probably have the same enemies, but they made the game twice as long, and they didn't add any new enemies. So there's probably the right amount of enemies in the original.
True. How about we put it above Portal 2, but you get to move Pokemon?
Portal 2 is just so solid. Like, you try and have a little speech about Portal 2 like I just did against Silent Hill 2 Remake.
You know what you just said about how Silent Hill 2 Remake is like, well, they made it twice as long, but they didn't add any new enemies. That's what Portal 2 is to Portal 1. They made it like 10 times as long and not any better. So it's
they added loads of new stuff.
Well,
That's
they added gels that have nothing to do with portals. It's stupid. It's like Portal 1 is amazing.
They added gels and like light bridges and like a way more in-depth story. All of the stuff with Cave Johnson.
Yeah, but it's like it's not. Portal 1's just better.
Like co-op.
Co-op is good. I'll give you that. Co-op is good.
A level like editor. It's like just after launch.
Yeah. But I think Portal 1 is perfect. And Portal 2 is a rehash of Portal 1. They've just taken it and done it. They did all the same things again and then just made it longer. So that's why I think Portal 1's better. If Portal 1 was, I would put Portal 1 above Silent Hill 2.
I think Portal 2 is just too packed full of moments to say that. Like, I think you just don't like Wheatley. And
no, I don't.
And I think a lot of the moments revolve around Wheatley.
He sucks. He's so annoying.
I love when he gets like control. Yeah, I don't need to.
We got a podcast.
Everyone other than Ollie knows why Portal 2 is so amazing. I think I think that's like just one under Portal 2.
Do you want it to go one under Portal 2 or do you want to move Pokemon up?
I want to do both.
You can only have one. Because I want it in the top 10 and you've not even...
But where am I allowed to move Pokemon to?
We'll talk about that.
Okay, well let's see where I would be able to move Pokemon to and I'll see which one I get. So right. Is top 10 out the question?
If it's out of the question for Silent Hill 2, it's out of the question for Pokemon.
Okay, what if I can move Pokemon one above Silent Hill 2?
And they both go up.
Let's do that first.
Okay. So you're basically saying that...
Oh yeah, I'll have it above GTA 5. I'll have both of them above GTA 5.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that because I think Silent Hill 2 is better than GTA 5. So they go like... Wait, Humanity goes up here.
So,
and then Pokemon goes above Silent Hill 2.
Yeah, so Pokemon Gold Silver will end up in this, as it's been arranged now, would end up at 11.
Yeah.
Then Silent Hill 2 will be at 12. And then as a little compromise, because...
Have we not compromised enough?
Well, just because Portal 2 has I feel upset about where it is now.
You did that. You did that.
No, because you gave me an ultimatum.
Portal 2 cannot go above GTA 5 where it is. That's fine. It's already at 14.
Yeah, that's 2 spaces down from where it was.
Because you wanted to move Pokemon and Silent Hill above it.
Yeah, but I wanted to also move Portal above them as well.
I think that's enough moving around, to be honest.
Okay, because you're happy now. Well, I guess neither of us are happy. Neither of us are ever happy.
Right, so the new... I guess the new 11 to 20 then is... number 11 is Pokemon Gold and Silver. So the worst Pokemon game is better than the best Silent Hill game. Silent Hill 2 is at number 12. 13 is GTA 5. 14 is Portal 2. 15 is Titanfall 2. 16 is Humanity. And 17 is Slay the Spire. That's enough.
Perfect. Don't worry leaving any comments saying that you don't like our list. We don't like it either. It's fine.
I don't like it. I'm miserable about that. Do you know what though?
We're not here to make friends. We're here to make content.
Yeah. I'm glad that you enjoyed Silent Hill 2 as much as you did.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to happily put it in top 20. If someone says, do you like horror games? I would say no.
Yeah.
Like I would, if it wasn't for the podcast, I was not going to play this game.
I thought you'd have a bigger problem with playing as James. Let's say no more because people may have skipped forward to this bit and not got the spoilers, but I thought you'd be like, oh, I don't want to.
No, he was one of the highlights because he was so interesting and acted so well. Yeah, I mean that was all of the stuff with the story and the cutscenes, mostly, but was really good and the best part of the game and the atmosphere. Yeah,
it was.
This would have been a great game for us to be playing together, and I would have been like completely happy to be in the passenger seat. You know, it's one of the ones where it's like we're doing past the pad.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes you're doing past the pad. It's like, oh, good, it's my turn to play. This is one that I would have been totally fine as the
if I keep dying.
player too watching. Yeah, maybe I'm getting frustrated at you, but like I think I'd have had a similar experience.
Yeah, I think the guy that played James is called Luke Roberts, and I think he is well in the chance of winning something at the Game Awards this year, I'd say. And if he doesn't, he was snubbed. You're going to say, why? I can rush through this last bit.
So the camera's battery is angry at us.
Yeah.
It's tired.
It's had enough.
It's had enough of us. So this might be a little bit of a speedy outro. But it's not because we're rushing. Well, it is because we're rushing, but that's why.
I'm going to quickly go through what's coming up. So the 15th of November, we have got Metal Gear Rising, which I already had an Xbox. So chances are you already have it too. I think it might have been in Games of Gold at some point in its life. You're playing on Steam, right?
Yep.
Nice one. And then November 29th, we have Papers, Please. And then after that, we've got Christmas Period, which is Quiz and Game of the Year. And then one last thing before we go is we're no longer on Twitter. We're finally away from that horrible cesspit, and we are instead on Blue Sky, which is like Twitter's replacement. Our new username is thebonuspoints.bsky.social, and people tend to like copy our accounts on social media. Our account follows 3 other accounts. It's me, it's 4J, and it's Reforge. We don't follow anyone else. So that's the account that is ours.
Do you know what? For a second, I was like, well, why don't you follow me?
You know, that's why I do 4J and Reforge, because you're not there.
I realised that.
But anyway, yeah, come to Blue Sky, because that's where I now ask for questions and stuff. So, yeah.
Cool.
I think that might have to be it.
Okay, right.
I'm worried about the camera. Yeah.
Thanks so much for watching or listening. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time with Metal Gear Rising. Apart from that, just watching. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.